Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 39 of the Hot Path Show. I am Commander Astronaut Johnny Turbo, joined in by Danny. Welcome in, Danny. How's it going today?
Amazing.
Excellent, excellent.
I'm
Well,
really
yeah,
excited for this one, seeing the game finally.
yeah. It's been,
You've been talking about it for a while now.
yeah, it's been in the works for a few months now, and that's kind of what I'm going to be talking about for the main portion of the show today. Is I'm going to be revealing this little game that I've been working on, and I'm kind of cosplaying as the main character here today.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm very much looking forward to showing it all to you today, the game and some other things that are kind of all related to this game. So yeah, I'm very excited about them all. But yeah, anyways, welcome in everybody. We have a couple random little topics that I want to touch on first. Just kind of some random things, some dots things, and then we'll get into revealing my game, which is going to be very exciting here. So anyways, Danny, yesterday was Halloween. So I kind of wanted to talk about Halloween for our little warm-up topic here. So is Halloween like a big thing in Europe, or like not really so much? Or is it like
so
kind of there?
General Europe, in my experience, not really, except for whatever reason, Denmark.
Okay.
So like if you go to Sweden, and we can have Tobias correct me on this.
Yeah.
But my Swedish colleagues tell me that Halloween is not at all a big thing. No trick-or-treating. It's not really a big thing. However, in Denmark, for some reason, it is. People do dress up. People do go trick-and-treating, carve out pumpkins, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So we do have a little. Yeah, we do have a pretty American Halloween in a way, right? I mean, some TV shows even go and do a Halloween episode.
Yeah.
Just like in the US,
Right.
So it is pretty much a normal Halloween. And I think one of the reasons is we have something called fastelavn in Denmark as well.
Okay.
Fastelavn was like in old Danish pagan times, where witch trials happened and everything, all of that jazz.
Yeah.
In February, due to, I think it was like they didn't have a lot of food in February season, so they had to go through a long phase of fasting, right?
Okay.
And so fastelavn is this event where now finally the fasting is over, and so you can finally start eating again. And this tradition, funnily enough, happens to have so many equal parts to Halloween. I don't know how this happened, but for instance, people do dress up for fastelavn. It doesn't have to be a scary outfit, but people do tend to, because they tend to reuse the same costume that they had for Halloween.
There you go. Yeah.
And as part of fastelavn, there's a sentence that is pretty normal called slik eller ballade. Slik means candy, eller is or, ballade means what's it called? Like it's a be aware, I'm gonna do something sort of
like a prank or something.
Essentially a prank, like I'm gonna toilet paper your house sort of thing.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna cause a bad time. Essentially, that's what ballade means. So slik eller ballade means candy, or I'm gonna cause a bad time.
Right.
Which is kind of like trick and treat.
Trick or treat, yeah.
And there is, however, one part of fastelavn that is different. Fastelavn, we do something called slå katten af tønden, which means to hit the cat out of the barrel. It was based on an old tradition where you would hit a barrel, and inside of it there was a black cat. Again, this is old pagan times. Witch hunting were a thing, and so the black cat was obviously a symbol of a witch's cat, which is why they would hit this barrel with cats in it, with a cat in it, in order to get the evil spirit out. Oftentimes killing the cat, of course. However, the tradition obviously has changed, and now instead of it being a cat inside the barrel, you have candy.
Is it kind of like a piñata type deal?
It's basically a piñata. The only difference is a barrel is certainly a lot harder to kit than a
Than
normal
like a
piñata.
little flat cardboard, yeah.
Yeah, it takes like an hour to go through that thing. It's really hard. And
Just got to give these little kids like an axe or something to just like hatchet away on it.
well, they normally get a wooden what's the thing? Like there's some sports that use this thing as well.
Oh, like a baseball bat?
Yeah, baseball bat for hitting down the barrel. And it usually takes like 20 kids all going through in circles. And by the end of it, the person who actually knocks the first candy out is crowned the king, and whoever was next is then the queen, no matter the gender, funnily enough. So it's
they do things a little differently out there in Denmark.
yeah. But yeah, so I think because we have this fastelavn tradition, I think it might happen to also be that, Danes just really like this sort of tradition, so we also do Halloween.
Right. You're like, yeah, this is a fun thing, and Halloween's kind of like very similar. Why not do it twice? So that was like a big thing, like growing up, like when you're like younger in school, like everyone would dress up at school and everything.
Yep, totally is a big thing there.
Yeah. I mean, that's very much the same way here, and because I wanted to bring this up because like when I was a kid, like trick or treating was like a big thing. Like I remember when I was out and about, there was like a ton of people out on the streets and everything, getting candy and everything. And so this year, it was the first year that I'm in this place, and so I didn't know like how many trick or treaters were going to come by. So I got like 2 big like Costco bags of like candy and all this stuff. And so I took some stats here about how many kids showed up. So we got this. I don't know if we can see this too well, but I got three doorbell rings and a total of 8 trick-or-treaters.
Yeah.
So not that many. I have a whole lot of candy left over.
In Denmark, it's definitely also region dependent. Some neighborhoods where there's a lot of kids, obviously there is going to be a lot more trick and treating.
Right.
In a neighborhood that is just mainly apartments, and so it's harder to get in the first place, you don't see a lot of trick or treating, even if there is kids. So it's new.
I'm guessing you didn't get a lot of people come by your apartment.
No, there's no one coming here. You would have to be in a neighborhood where there is a lot of housing.
Right. Yeah. I am in a house, and I'm like kind of near a park and stuff, so like it does get busy from time to time. But so yeah, I wasn't sure, but yeah, not really that busy over here.
And yeah, there's no such thing as leftover candy. So I'm sure you have a ton. So what kind of stuff do you then give away? What is the usual treats that you give?
Oh, I mean, just like normal candy stuff, Reese's, Snickers, stuff like that.
Well, okay. When you say normal, you should also be aware that Danish candy is slightly different.
Okay, sure.
For instance, Reese's you won't find
Hoops
here,
or whatever, nothing like that.
You won't find Reese's here, but you would find Snickers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, basically just like kind of chocolatey and some more kind of sweet treats. Yeah, I was giving out the little. I should have given out some like Unity trading card tips.
Oh, yes.
Which, by the way, I'm going to be a featured guest on some Unity tips here coming up soon. I submitted them to the people, and they're going to be sharing them, and sounds like they're going to be making some cards out of them as well at some point. So, yeah.
Oh, fun.
Indeed. By the way, I thought this was funny. So the Schrodinger's barrel.
Yes.
Wow. So yeah, did you do anything for Halloween this year, or were you just kind of hanging around, working at the Unity sweatshop?
Both in the same time. Okay. So the Unity actually did fully decorate the Copenhagen office. With Halloween stuff. I do like the decoration because some of it is kind of fun. Like obviously there's the normal skeleton stuff and pumpkin stuff, but there was also like on the toilet seat there was a skeleton popping out. On the floor there was the outline of a body. Like
like a crime scene or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
No, it was pretty fun. And then there was like pumpkin carving. We got pizza. There was a pumpkin carving contest, so whoever had the prettiest, coolest pumpkin.
Did you dress up at all?
I did not know.
No. Did any of your coworkers have any extravagant outfits?
There were some. There was one person that just put a pumpkin on their head and had that on the entire day, which
That's cool. That's cool.
That's commitment.
Yeah.
There was one person that was Shrek.
Okay.
And then another one that was Velma, from Scooby-Doo.
Yeah, Scooby-Doo.
Yep. And that's all I can remember, really.
All right. That's pretty good. I had a doctor's appointment the other day, and my doctor he basically kind of like knocked on the door. I had never met this guy. It was the first time that I've gone to him because I'm kind of like in a new area and stuff. So got set up and got an appointment with him, and he like just like knocks on the door, and like as he's opening it, he's just like, "I'm sorry, we're doing a Halloween thing," and he was like dressed up as like someone from Mulan or something. He's like, we're doing a Halloween thing all week. Today's like Disney Princess Day. He's like, "I'm sorry."
Was he then a
awesome.
Disney princess?
No, he was not one of the Disney princesses, but he was part of the Disney theme.
Yeah.
There was someone who was like dressed up in a full like Cinderella gown though. Like it was like that is a commitment in the doctor's office as you're like, walking around all day and everything. So
I can imagine.
Yeah. Anyways, Halloween, fun times.
Yeah.
So with that, we can go ahead and move over
Actually, I do have one question for you, which is so right about the time that Halloween pops up, obviously the stores will then get filled with pumpkins and Halloween decorations. How quickly does that turn into Christmas decorations for you guys?
Well, first it's the Black Friday decorations.
Oh yeah, I see. Wait, you guys have specific decoration for Black Friday?
I mean, there's just like a bunch of signs and stuff. I mean, it kind of just goes hand in hand with Thanksgiving, really, because it's the day after Thanksgiving. So
yeah. Funny enough, we don't have Thanksgiving, but we do have Black Friday.
Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, I guess it's just kind of the whole worldwide Western culture consumerism kind of thing at this point. Like, yes. But to be honest, like Christmas decorations will probably be going up very soon here.
Yeah, I mean, it already has started here.
Yeah,
every store.
It'll usually kind of start like in one little section where they still have a lot of the Thanksgiving stuff up, and then just like as the weeks go on, it kind of grows and grows until everything is just infested with Santa Clauses and snow. And
yes, I can also imagine you guys, because you have a event in between Halloween and Christmas, it takes a little longer.
Right. Yeah. Although, I mean, it is quickly turning to wintertime out here. We had our first snowfall on Wednesday.
Wow.
So yeah,
I haven't seen any snow here. So the cloud did turn purple. No, sky did turn purple yesterday.
That doesn't seem healthy.
Yeah, it was very weird. It was the entire sky that turned purple, and there was no light. The sun wasn't even out.
Like in the middle of the night, it was just purple.
Well, the sun had just set, so there was no sun around, but the entire sky was purple.
Was it like a pretty purple, or was it like I shouldn't be breathing?
Yeah, no, it was like proper. I would say like a haunting purple, like a sort of like the logo I have, the purple logo I have. It's that color.
Yeah. Okay.
But in the sky, it was very weird.
Probably was aliens.
Must be. Yeah. I mean, some people also just said, "Oh, it seems that the sky knows the day. It's Halloween,
Yeah. It's
Halloween
like
themed
festive,
weather. Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of cool. Like a little creepy purple sky there.
Yes.
All right. Well, happy Halloween, everybody. So yeah, with that, we can move over into some kind of smaller topics of discussion here. A couple things that I do want to share. I did put up a poll over on my YouTube community tab the other day. Go ahead and post this in the chat if you guys want to open that in a new tab or what have you. But I'm kind of planning some ideas for the next like Dots Community Programming Challenge. We've done a couple of these already. So we did one. The first one we did, which was kind of like recreating John Conway's Game of Life using Unity Dots. And then we did a second one, which was more of like kind of a game jam focused one. And the theme for that was stuck in a simulation. And then for this one, I want to go back to the more like kind of community programming challenge where we're not necessarily making a game, but it's more like, kind of solving some problem using dots, ECS, what have you. So kind of put up a poll to gauge people's interest in if we should do kind of like a more specific topic or a more kind of like open-ended category. I think there's kind of like benefits of both of them. Like a more specific topic would be like, where everyone's kind of doing the same thing. So we can kind of like, compare implementations of, the specific things that we're trying to solve. Whereas the open-ended category, I think that kind of gives people a little bit more autonomy to create something that they think that they can accomplish within the, week or so time frame that I'll be giving everybody. And just kind of like give people, like, some bunch of cool different examples of things that could be completed with like dots and ECS. So I guess like an example of that would be, I probably wouldn't pick this as a topic, but like for an open-ended category, it would be something like, like do something cool with like rendering or graphics, like just keep it like really open-ended like that. And then, I'd give people some like kind of example projects that I think could be like, cool things that to like kind of, get you thinking in that mindset and all that. Whereas like a specific topic would be like, okay, like, create a compute shader that can do like X, Y, and Z kind of thing. So I think there are kind of, interesting things to both. So again, just kind of gauging people's interest. It seems like more people kind of want a specific topic, but a good amount of people are kind of cool with both. So yeah, Danny, did you have any thoughts on that before we move on to the next thing? I can't hear you, by the way.
Oh yeah, I turned it off. Had a cat. Yeah, no, I don't really have any thought now. I mean, I'm good with either. I generally do like a specific topic because it makes everyone strive for the same sort of goals.
Right. Yeah.
I do like specific topics, but with not a lot of ruling around the specific topic. So, I think what's fun about a specific topic is all the ways that people interpret an idea.
Right. Yeah. So. I have an idea that what I want to do for a specific topic, and it's not like so specific where it's like, okay, here's like input data, here's output data, and that has to like all match up and everything. But it is more of like, kind of can give you some autonomy to do something, but still within a very specific and kind of, well-defined problem. So, yeah. Again, have a little bit more information on our DOTS programming challenge in a little bit here. I'll have to figure out when a good time to hold this would be. Next thing that I do want to mention is some of you remember we did have Code Monkey on the show a few weeks ago, and it was a bunch of fun. He talked about his DOTS course that he was working on, and exciting news, he just finished the course. So for the past month or so, maybe a little bit more that it's been out, he has been adding content to it every couple weeks or so. And he just mentioned that it is now completely finished. He finished adding in kind of some of the final touches, like some of the fog of war and building type stuff. Looks like Mr. Awesome already completed it. Very good. And so, he was, kind of like showcasing, some of the combat and, just kind of all the things within there. So it is a really good course, a good like kind of introduction into DOTS and ECS topics. Or if you want to start, getting into some deeper things like creating a full game with DOTS and ECS, I think it is a really good resource. I do have a link to that down in the description where you can go check out that course from Code Monkey. Really cool on that one. Next up, do want to mention that the Unity Asset Store is hosting a $20 sale right now. So basically, they just have like a whole ton of assets available for $20. I do also have a link to that down in the description below. And basically, again, there's just a bunch of things all available at $20 price points. And, a lot of these things that you can see, like this one's like 80% off down to $20. So you can definitely pick up some pretty good deals on here. I haven't gone through it like super in depth to see if there's anything, super interesting in here, but definitely go ahead and check that out. I don't know exactly how long this sale is going on for, but guess they just say for a limited time. Is there like a countdown timer or anything like that? Nope. So yeah, check out that sale if you do want to find some good deals on the asset store. Next up, here's an interesting one. Danny, you have a new boss.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm well aware of this fact.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I'm surprised it was already announced.
Yep. So
I guess it makes sense. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So yeah, the other day Unity announced that they have a new CTO, Chief Technology Officer. The previous guy, Luke Bartlett, I believe was his name. He was there about 2 years or so, year and a half maybe.
Well,
Didn't seem like
it was sort of interesting what happened there, which is we didn't have Joachim for a while. They
Oh yeah,
were
yeah,
searching
yeah.
for a CTO, and so Luke Bartlett was put in that position, and then they did some reorganization, and instead of him being the CTO, he was now director of the CTO, which stood for the Central Technology Org.
Okay.
So he was no longer CTO, but he did own the team that owns pretty much the entire engine and asset store, and so he was essentially the CTO just without the name CTO for a while, and he was part of. I don't have we talked about in the show that like 3 people were fired at the same time?
I don't think so.
So Luke Bartlett, what was Thomas Peterson and Silvio were all fired at the same time.
Okay. Who was the third one?
Silvio, he did AI.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not familiar.
But yeah, so Thomas Peterson has been very public about this on his Twitter, and Luke Bartlett has not been as public, but it is public record because they're SVPs. So which is pretty interesting.
Did that happen? I don't even know if I.
It's like 2 weeks ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's fairly recent. But yeah, so I think it makes space for someone like Steve Collins to come in and like make sure that everything has like a strong direction. And also, he used to be the CTO of and co-founder of Havok.
Yeah. I was gonna talk a little bit about his kind of background here. So yeah, he was the CTO of King, who are the people who make what is it, like Clash of Clans and stuff like that. Kind of one of the mobile games.
No, that's not them. I'm pretty sure King doesn't make Clash of Clans. King is like at the well-known match-3 game called Candy Crush.
Yeah.
They also made
Candy Crush. What else does King make? I could have sworn
King is a ton of mobile games. One of them is also a Dutch game called Crash Bandicoot on the Run that was discontinued. Yeah, Crash Bandicoot on the Run for mobile. It was actually, in my opinion, a pretty fun game. It was written with dots.
Wow, I had no idea.
It was discontinued.
Oh, so you can't even play it anymore?
Yeah, which is sad. I really like that game.
Yeah, I'm looking at their games right now. It's all Candy Crush and stuff like that. So yeah. But yeah, so yeah, he was the CTO of King and co-founder of Havok, the Havok physics engine. Was also saying that down here he has a PhD in computer graphics and global illumination. So very specific and interesting PhD right there.
I think if I try looking up Matt Bromberg and seeing where he used to work, I think that he was also part of King at some point.
He was another mobile company, I believe. Let's see here.
I do think Stephen Collins is an interesting CTO, is probably going to be an interesting CTO because King's games are all made with Unity. They've been using Unity for years and years and years.
By the way, Zynga is who Matt Bromberg was with.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And Bumble as well.
Oh, that's an interesting one. But Steve Collins, I do find to be interesting. I haven't seen him yet. He hasn't even done an internal AMA yet. But from the fact that he worked as a CTO on Havoc, which
Yeah,
is
for sure. Yeah,
definitely a very stable, good choice for physics,
no, definitely.
and the fact that he has a PhD in computer graphics and global illumination, and the fact that King is such a well-known Unity user, and they have to sift through a lot of data at that company. I'm sure he's a good like that's King is very much a customer-focused company, and I think that's also why Matt wanted him.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And yeah, I was gonna say I'm just kind of like curious if he had any kind of interest in dots or data oriented background, because I know the previous CTO, Luke Bartlett, like he was kind of one of the primary developers, I believe, on like the original Sims game, if I remember correctly. And that, from what I understand, kind of used a heavily entity component system based architecture. So I know he kind of had that sort of connection with data oriented design for a while. So yeah, it would be interesting to know, if kind of the new guy, Steve Collins, continues to support it. I assume he will. It just kind of seems like Unity is kind of like heading in that direction in general. But yeah, it will be interesting to see, because if he's, of course, kind of heading the technology end, kind of what his I guess how he'll continue to kind of pioneer that. But yeah, so I think it's cool stuff here. Seems like a well accomplished gentleman, and yeah, don't know if I have much more to say on that. What else do we got here? This one. So yeah, if you'll remember a few weeks ago, or was it like literally just 1 or 2 weeks ago? Yeah, I think 2 weeks. Yeah, 2 weeks ago, Unity released their official Unity 6 version, kind of the long-term support of Unity 6. And now already we actually have the 6.1 alpha available for early testing. So yeah, this is just kind of like an iteration on Unity 6. So it doesn't come with all the crazy new ECS integrations and everything like that. This is just kind of the next evolution of Unity 6. Trying to see, I was looking at kind of the change log about kind of some of the kind of additions that were added in here. So yeah, this seems like there's kind of some additional graphics settings, option to disable field and sprite editor for accidental edits, added support for Facebook instant games, some new graphics APIs. Seems like there's like different platforms. Oh, Web GPU is now officially available as one of the graphics APIs for the web player. Improved workflow for UI toolkits. We have some MetaQuest build platforms in the build profiles window. A lot of improvements, API changes. Do you have anything to say on the Unity 6.1 here?
I mean, not really. I don't know much about it, other than
what they specifically included in it and all that.
Yeah. I mean, when you work as a package developer, it's a lot different than working on the engine.
On the mainstream releases. Yeah.
And obviously for newer versions, I do work on the mainstream, but for Unity 6, I haven't really worked on it that much.
Yeah. I guess as far as does it seem like well, I mean, I guess it'd be interesting to see with the next generation version of Unity if the entity stuff continues on being a package, or if that is being a little bit more tightly integrated in the editor, if that's now just kind of like part of the existing Unity version. I'm assuming you probably don't have much to say on anything about that, though. But yeah, so anyways, 6.1 is available, so go ahead and play around with that. That is an alpha version, so feel free to, or I guess expect there to potentially be some bugs or issues with it. So wouldn't quite recommend shipping a game on the very first Unity 6.1 alpha. But yeah, if you want to check out some of the new features, Web GPU and stuff like that, yeah, definitely check it out if you're interested. Last little small piece of stuff here is I did see that Unity put out a little video the other day with the interview with some people of the Den of Wolves team from 10 Chambers, Swedish studio. Danny, did you see this video at all by chance?
I have not.
Yeah,
No.
they posted it on the official YouTube channel. It's basically just kind of like an ad for Unity 6 and kind of like, why they went with Unity 6. And it's just kind of like them kind of showcasing some of the features. I did want to bring this up because Den of Wolves is a game based off of dots and ECS and all that. They haven't really talked about too much, like, what specifically it uses dots and ECS for. It was kind of funny, like during the press conference or whatever at the Unite, one of these people from 10 Chambers was on stage and was saying how they couldn't talk too much, like their publisher wouldn't let them talk too much about how they're using dots in that game. So I thought that was kind of an interesting thing here. But I'm gonna go ahead and just play this real quick. They did have a couple few second mentions of some ECS things in here.
The switch from object-oriented to data-oriented is one that gives us more structure, gives us much better separation between data and execution. It's quite a big undertaking for our programmers. There's a lot of things to learn to really get your ECS up and running, to get your systems right, to get your data right. So you need to take some care in how you design it still. You need to care about the architecture. But once you do that, you have a great foundation for maintaining a game for a long time. So it's worth the investment, but it's important to know that it is an investment in skill, in time in the beginning. But I think it's one of the benefits with Unity. So now we're not limited by these technical boundaries that we had before.
So yeah, I mean that's pretty much all they really said as far as dots and ECS type stuff goes. So yeah, they're just kind of saying how it did seem to be like a little bit of a challenge for them to kind of all, learn ECS, get the whole team on board with it. And, again, kind of like they're saying, there's kind of a lot of investment in the beginning to kind of build that foundation. But it sounds like they are really seeing a lot of the benefits of, kind of the data-oriented architecture. Now that they have that kind of built out, I'm assuming they're kind of able to, take advantage of that, a lot of that kind of flexibility of, separating data and systems and all that.
Yeah, it's kind of funny too, because they had an internal AMA and Matt constantly wanted to talk Unity 6 and they wanted to talk dots, and you could see because they have a really good dots use case, but I also cannot say.
Awesome. Well, yeah, I'm very much looking forward to seeing what that's all about really soon here, hopefully. This game doesn't have a date on it yet, does it?
No, it does not.
Okay. Yeah. But yeah, this is kind of a little bit of an interesting video. Again, mostly just kind of like an ad for Unity 6, but they, were saying how they were pretty deep into development when they decided to make the switch over to Unity 6. And yeah, it sounds like they were able to successfully do it and have been having a lot of benefits from it. So shout out to 10 Chambers and Den of Wolves team over there.
I mean, they're also the first company to change the Unity logo.
Yeah. I don't think it's in this here, but I guess if we search for 10 Chambers Den of Wolves, it is kind of cool what they did with it.
I think it's in the official trailer at the end. I'm pretty sure
it is the end.
There, yeah.
Oh, stuck on the Level Infinite logo. Shout out Tencent. Yeah, you can kind of see. I'm like trying to go frame by frame to, because yeah, it kind of starts off as like the more like kind of old school Unity logo. Oh, wait, I guess no, this is kind of the newer one.
It is the newer one, but it is.
And then they kind of like break it up into this little like 3-part thing here. Yeah, these like the 3 different sides kind of like expand out a little bit. And then you have like this.
I mean, I'm definitely going to play it when it comes out. It looks so cool. It really does.
Yeah. And no, they are a well-accomplished team. They did GTFO and what was the other one? Or was GTFO?
I have no idea. But what they are very known for is being ex-Payday.
That's right. Yeah.
They are the They are basically all the creative heads and minds that made Payday initially, but didn't like working with the previous studio, and so they turned to make their own studio and created. I think it was the GTFO that was the game that they created.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's a bunch of Payday people, and that's why it's such a big deal what they're making. It's like a 100-man studio at this point as well.
Yeah.
It's massive.
They've been growing for sure. So yeah, I mean, it's cool to see that they've been able to kind of scale a game based off of the dots and ECS architecture to a point where there's again 100 people involved with it, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, it's also fun. Yeah, they got approval to get that special made with Unity logo. Does look cool.
I mean, it's probably a case of money talks, but who knows?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, it sounds like they have a very close relationship with you guys over there. Like they were even mentioning in that previous video, about how they were, had good relationships and were able to talk to a bunch of people on the Dots teams and stuff. So, yeah,
we are definitely aware of their project.
I'm sure more than just aware. So yeah. We'll keep you posted on Den of Wolves. Okay, what else do we got here? Do want to remind you all that you guys can support us over on Patreon if you do like. We have some fun bonuses over there. I'm going to be recording the Q&A video probably sometime this weekend. So I put up a post on Patreon as well as the YouTube membership tab. If you're at that tier for the Q&A stuff, where you can, ask me any questions and I'll be responding to them in that Q&A there. And I'm also going to be putting up some other bonus videos and stuff within the next week or so here. So have more info on that soon. Anyways, with that, we can move over into some of our ECS topics here. For the cache hit Unity Dots quick tip of the week, I kind of wanted to pick your brain on something real quick here that popped up in the Discord the other day that I was kind of curious about. I kind of have some internal assumptions on and just wanted to kind of confirm that this was true. So someone was basically asking, how does the essentially like regular Unity player loop and the ECS player loop, like how does that all kind of like fit in? And everything. So my basically understanding of it was always that all the regular updates for Unity mono behaviors are going to run first. The next portion of the frame is going to be the entire ECS player loop. So the 3 phases of the initialization, simulation, presentation. And then after that, any late updates in any of the mono behaviors are going to run. Is my assumption correct with that, or are there kind of some nuances in there?
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. So ECS uses something called the, I think it's like the player loop system or something like that.
Okay.
It's a specific. It's like a specific type of system we have for all the like main events of Unity. So the after the frame has been drawn, just before the frame has been drawn, the normal frame update, I think there's one even for the physics one.
Okay.
There's like 5 default ones
and that's just within regular Unity, you mean?
That's within regular Unity. Okay. And for every one of those systems, it's always a case of Unity runs first, and then anything else runs after. And so entities just having implemented that means that it runs after normal Unity, right? So it means that late update would what's it called? There's the presentation system group, and if you have a system inside the presentation system group, it would run after the late updates. From what I recall.
Yeah, and actually, someone kind of asked to clarify here: late update runs after rendering an ECS. Is that right?
I think so. Yeah.
Because the ECS rendering, I guess, would happen within that presentation system group. So. Yes. That is kind of interesting because late update still runs before the regular Unity rendering, though, right? It's kind of that last step before that, right? Yeah.
And I mean, the basic way to test is just like debug log, like check
Yeah. I had done
It's fully
debug logs and
deterministic.
stuff to like, check and confirm myself, but I wasn't sure if there was like, because you know how you can kind of do that mono behavior like ordering. Like, I wasn't sure if maybe there's a way that you could like set the mono behavior ordering to like somehow update after the ECS player loop or something like that. But
Yeah. I will see if I can find the specific thing that we're using, because then by that point you can very easily see. Oh my god, I'm stuck. Oh, I crashed. No.
that's a beautiful frame to get frozen on right
Yep. I look dazed. Like
You're
really.
kinda like, do you need
It's,
to
it's
restart
kind
your
of funny
browser
too,
or
because
something? Or
you're still moving.
yeah.
Like, and obviously things still work. It's just
Yeah,
Chrome.
I mean, I can hear you just fine. I'm assuming the people can hear you just fine too.
Like, what's it called? Chrome is right now saying not responding.
Oh, you're back.
There we go. I'm back. Chrome was saying like not responding, and then like all my Chrome windows were like whited out. They had a white
Oh, that's
tint.
kind of what happened to me like a month or so ago. Do you remember that?
Yeah. And so yeah, I was, stuck in frame, and I could still see you moving, but otherwise I couldn't, do anything with Chrome. So
What if you get the little dinosaur game that came up?
I wish that I had the dinosaur, then I could play the game. The little.
Exactly. What if like you were frozen, but you could like somehow still stream the dinosaur game? I think you
That would be
froze
fun.
again.
God damn it! It's at least a better frame.
You need to download more RAM or something.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, you got a nice smile in that one. So, all right, you're back.
It's my fault for trying to open Unity documentation. I can see that. So,
Unity documentation needs to switch over to a dots backend.
yes, that's the issue. Yeah, okay. It is called the player loop API, which gives you the player loop system, which has a list of subsystems.
Do you want to share the screen, or is that an internal thing?
It's not internal at all. You can try Googling.
What is it?
It's called the player loop system.
This right here?
Indeed.
Okay. Player loop system. Representation of a single system being updated by the player loop in Unity. So what should I be looking at in here?
Now, I guess it actually doesn't say it, which is the documentation here is bad. But you can just call player loop, get default player loop, and then you can, when you call that, you get back a player loop, and then you can use the subsystem list, iterate over that, and then see which things are in the subsystem list. That will tell you when they run and who runs when.
Okay. And so that that's like including like that's all the regular Unity stuff, but then I could also get some ECS information out of that.
Yeah. Because that's what we register ourselves to.
Okay. So does this kind of give me again like the kind of top level things, or is this like literally giving me like every mono behavior and system in my game?
The top level.
Okay.
The very top level. So you get a high level overview.
So for ECS, does it like have some ECS specific thing, or does it give us the three kind of main things of the ECS player loop, or is that again registered into some other kind of top level thing?
It will basically just tell you what is the name of the Unity thing that runs, and what is the system group that runs.
Okay. Does this have hooks? I'm assuming that people can kind of hook into it if they wanted to.
Yes, if you press the type called low-level player loop system that it returns, then you can hook into the update delegate.
This is update delegate here. Okay, interesting. Cool. Always good to know about some of the kind of internal workings about some of the things that we just kind of assume how Unity works. It's like,
Yes.
we know there's a player loop and all this, but a lot of times we don't necessarily consider how exactly that works.
And
is there any kind of diagram for it, by the way? Yeah.
That is why I'm saying that this is a crappy, really bad documentation for it.
Because there is that nice diagram for like the mono behavior life cycle, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I was kind of expecting the same in here, but no, it seems not.
Well,
bummer. But yeah, if you want,
if you got some work to do on Monday, Danny.
No. But yeah, I think if you want to see how it works in practice, just open up world.cs, the entities script, and then like look for player system inside of there. It's not a lot of code that is involved in setting up the specific system groups.
Okay.
So it should be fairly easy to read how that works, and yeah, therefore also how they are being registered.
I'm going to see if the manual by chance has anything on.
You can search the manual and search like
There we go. Play mode and editor profile samples, profile markers, troubleshooting on iOS devices. That's what I was looking for. Order of execution for event functions. Yeah, I mean, I think this is like the nice.
Yeah, that's the big graph that everyone has seen.
Oh yeah, very classic one.
Oh, actually, go down a little more. The player loop API. It's a little up.
Player loop API. It just brings us here.
Yeah, but if you read, I think it said something.
In general, you should not rely on the order in which the same event function is invoked for different game objects, except when the order is explicitly documentation or settable. If you need more fine-grained control of the player loop, you can use player loop API. Cannot specify the order in which an event function is called for different instances of the same mono behavior.
Okay, yeah, it doesn't say anything.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
No. But yeah, no. So, but they at least mention that the player loop API is a thing. The actual like documentation is left as an exercise for the reader. It's
yeah. All right. Well, fun stuff over there. Okay, so yeah, we can move over into our context switch, where I like to bring up just kind of random ECS topic of discussion. Thought this was interesting. Wasn't sure if you saw this, but this is a little blog post by Mr. Sebastian Schoner. Is that how you say the last name?
I think Schoner.
Yeah. Did you see this all by chance? It was basically an article you wrote called Unity Burst Interacting with Managed Code.
Yeah.
So it's basically a blog post kind of talking about how, of course, with Burst, there are a lot of limitations where we can't use any type of managed code. And so that's quite limiting, especially when we're interfacing with a lot of regular Unity features. So this blog post was quite interesting because it basically showed some different options for interacting with managed code and kind of doing things a little bit more manually, as well as using some of Unity's built-in features here. So Danny, you said you saw this article?
Yeah, but I only skimmed it. I remember him doing something that is a little more complicated than what I normally would do.
Yeah, so I just read through this article a little bit before we went live. So yeah, I just posted the link in the chat there for people. But yeah, basically, yeah, it's a pretty short article, but yeah, the first thing that he goes over is referencing Unity objects. So he says, you can basically just create a struct and then use the Unity engine's instance ID to, basically kind of store a reference to that. And then you can, basically use Unity engine.resources.instance ID to object to essentially get the object of that. And he does mention that this is like very similar to what the Unity object ref does, where you're basically just kind of storing the instance ID. And then when you go to access it, then you can use that instance ID to get that object and then, call whatever functions or manipulate it in whatever way is necessary. Is that kind of like how Unity object ref essentially works on the back end? Is it uses the Unity object's instance ID?
Yes. That is exactly what it is. Unity object ref is just a backing field that is an int storing the instance ID, and then whenever you call that value, you get out the result of instance ID to object.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, he was basically saying how you can kind of do that a little bit more manually if you want, or use the Unity object ref type, which is just kind of like a little bit of a cleaner way to do that, and then you don't have to manually worry about the instance ID yourself and kind of dereferencing and all of that. Another thing that he does is kind of for regularly, or just kind of like regular C# managed types, is kind of like doing something similar, but using the GC handle. So I believe what this does when you do the GC handle.alloc on any type of object, you get basically this GC handle from it, which is an unmanaged type. So again, you can kind of store a reference to this in any burst compatible code and all that. But yeah, also doing this GC handle.alloc, essentially, I believe it essentially flags the object to not get cleaned up by the garbage collector. However, because of that, you do need to manually free it, after you use it, so you don't have any kind of memory leaks associated with that. And then you can basically do something similar as with the instance ID, where if you have that GC handle, you can just do this unmanaged handle.targets and then cast it to whatever class type, and then you have that object. And again, you can kind of do whatever you need with it. So yeah, again, this can kind of be passed around through burst code, but of course, when you're dereferencing it and kind of using that object, you of course can't do that part within burst code. Is this something that you've ever had to do anything like this with, like, kind of any regular normal C# class types?
Yeah, of course. So like when you're using the entity command buffer, you have the ability to use to call managed commands on it. You can add managed components, you can add managed shared component data, all of that. Now the entity command buffer is fully bursted, and so when it does a bursted playback, it has to be able to then go into managed the way that and it also has to be able to store any references that you created. So when you created your class and you said add component data or add component object or whatever, the managed version, it has to temporarily keep that reference valid. And the way that it does that is by creating a GC handle, and then that's what is stored on the entity command buffer. So the entity command buffer obviously just contains an array of commands, but the command for a managed, like one of the managed commands, would always contain the data for a GC handle pointing to the piece of data that you're attempting to add. And then as soon as you are done playing back, then it will make sure to also clean free the GC handle, so it no longer holds it. It's basically like adding a ref count to it. So even though nothing is managing it in a referenced way, that class, it will still be ref counted, and so it won't get cleaned up. But as soon as you call free, it doesn't mean you actually free up the managed memory. Instead, it just tells it you are now allowed to do so if there's no one else that has also done a GC handle alloc, or there's no one else that has it still has a reference, a managed reference.
Okay.
No, I've used it quite a lot. Also because people have like some wrong assumptions about what it does. For instance, you might assume that this pins memory, but it doesn't. There's a enum flag that you can use in gchandle.alloc that tells it what kind of alloc that it does. One of which is called pinned. So you can pin memory using it, but it's not pinned by default, and so the memory can still move around, and therefore you're also not allowed to.
So it just basically kind of flags this data as saying, like, always like don't automatically clean this up, and then when you call free, it doesn't actually free it. It just kind of removes that flag of, don't automatically clean me up. But, like you say, if people still are referencing it, it won't clean that up until those people are no longer referencing it.
Yeah. And so, again, that's really useful for how entity command buffers work. It's also useful for how iSystem is set up, because iSystem registration, we have a list of all the function pointers for all the update functions, and all the on destroy, on create, all of those are a long set of arrays for function pointers. So there's a long array for every system, and every system then has a structure containing the function pointers in that.
Okay.
But and some burst functions are managed, some burst functions are not managed, and so you need to be able to call from a bursted context managed functions.
Well, yeah, we're going to get into that in a sec, but I just thought this was funny. 30 years of garbage collection, and now we're just back to raw malloc. Kind of.
Yeah.
So yeah, then this is kind of where we get into actually calling managed methods. So they say, passing managed data around is especially useful when there's some leaf function somewhere that is managed and hard to extract. How could we call this function from burst? The goal is to merely call this function from burst at runtime, but it will not be compiled by burst. So it's basically kind of like a way that we can essentially just kind of like, fire off a method on some managed type or something like that. So yeah, it basically says, burst is happy to call function pointers. So we get a function pointer to a managed function and call it, get the function pointer through a delegate object, but then have to ensure that that delegate object is not cleaned up by the garbage collector. And then they need to put the function pointer somewhere burst can see it, which is a shared static is kind of the type that they use here. So this is kind of like an example, and this is where things get a little bit more kind of messy and complicated. But essentially, there's some class with some managed stuff, and there's a delegate for kind of your managed code here. You have this public static object for some managed code as well. There's a struct tag type of your managed code. And then, here's where we have the shared static of type int pointer. You can call this whatever you'd like, and then set this equal to shared static of type int pointer, get or create, and then the tag type your managed code here. And then, basically, there's kind of the initialization step where, you construct the delegate object, keep the reference alive. So that's basically, I think, what we're doing with, I think this part here is, assigning this delegate to something so it doesn't get cleaned up by the garbage collector. Or actually, no.
Okay, should I try to explain it? Because I do also know this.
Go ahead. I'm kind of going fast here. So go ahead.
Yes. So a shared static does let us have a value that we can use both in burst and in unbursted code, which is great. It has to be only unmanaged, and so we can only contain on the unmanaged data, we can contain a unmanaged function pointer. But when you have a delegate, it's not an unmanaged function pointer. And so in order to invoke it, or in order to turn your managed delegate into a function pointer, you can call marshal.get function pointer for delegate. And so when you pass in that delegate object, what you get is that delegate that you have, the one that is your actual managed function, but it's a function pointer pointing to it. And when you do so, something interesting happens, which is it will look at that function and see if it has an attribute on it called monop invoke. And if it does, then it will use a C decal spec instead.
Use a what?
A C decal.
Okay.
So the function pointer is invocable as a C function. So it does cost a little extra, but it means that you now have a function pointer that you can call from C and then invoke it further. And that's important because burst is a C decal spec. based language, right?
Yeah.
So what you have here is, you're getting from a delegate, you're getting the function pointer, but the function pointer is unmanaged, and so if you just were to contain that reference, it wouldn't actually have the original delegate stay alive, and so the original delegate might have died, which is why you need the GC defeat. The GC defeat is just the original function. And so this pattern that he is describing here is actually what we use all throughout entities code.
Like anytime you need to call out to managed functions, basically.
Yeah. And this is the sort of extended example of it.
Yeah.
Where burst can call. It's sort of difficult because this example here, what he's showing is the full case of burst being able to call managed code being able to call bursted code being able to call bursted code, and managed code being able to call managed code. Yeah. So I think it's mostly just a matter of reading that code.
Yeah, it is fairly straightforward. And then, yeah, you can see kind of at the end here where you actually get the function pointer of the type, and then you can actually do the fp.invoke to actually call the method, and you can pass along any arguments and stuff if necessary into that as well.
Yes.
He does call out that there is one caveat in here. Is it down? Thought it was up in this part. Oh yeah. So yeah, burst fundamentally does not support exception handling, for example. So when you call a managed function and it ends up throwing, well, all bets are off. So I guess that's kind of like a little caveat to watch out for. Yeah. So yeah, that was I thought that was kind of a little bit of an interesting article, kind of talking about, again, interacting with managed code through Unity Burst, and would recommend checking out if you're interested in that.
I mean, I used to work with Schöner, and he then worked at Epic for a while, and now no longer works at Epic, so he can write about Unity again.
Is he kind of, I guess I haven't been following him super closely, but is he kind of doing more Unity related things lately, or has he kind of been talking about
it is we're talking like, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago that he stopped working at company Fortnite. Yeah, I think he only just wrote this. We'll see how much Unity he goes back to.
Yeah, this was October 28th, and I guess if we go to his blog, are there any? It doesn't look like there are any Unity specific related things for a little while here. So
though someone does point out that he had a really good Twitter thread about what happens when you have a bunch of people at Microsoft all writing really heavily OOP code, and it was some updating software that ended up taking 16 seconds, and only like 1% of 10% or something of which were actual processing time. The rest of which were initialization and destruction. So it was like, to do an update on a tiny package, which there were plenty of, it had to actually, you can see the thread October 31st. Scroll a little down.
Is this one here?
Exactly, that's the one. So it's taking 19 seconds per package. Scroll down. Where's the nice little important one?
This is the best thing about programmers. Is like there's like one little thing that was like bothering them at the beginning that said it's stuck updating. Why is it stuck updating? Well, let's go into all these like very detailed debug views to figure out exactly why.
Yeah. So you can see 1,000 packages would end up taking him 53 hours in order to update because of this, which is terrible, absolutely terrible. So scroll up a little, then you can also see the A little more up. I think it might be this one. Yeah, down. It's creating the object takes 2.8 seconds. Deleting the object takes roughly 16 seconds. Running the actual operation takes 125 milliseconds.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, this is absolutely horrible, and that's because they have some service or thing that you can request the queries from, and then it will spin something up, and then it will spin it down again, and yeah, it looks
so
horrible. I can recommend reading the thread.
I remember back at my IT job when we were still deploying a lot of Windows 7 workstations to people, there was something with Windows Update that like it would basically, like, no matter what, it would take like 24 hours to download like the initial, or like download and initialize the first round of updates. So like anytime we got like a new computer, we would just like set it up on the bench, have it going for Windows updates, and then wouldn't touch it until the next day because it would take literally 24 hours to go through that like initial setup process, which was just insane.
Oh my god, that's horrible. Also, by the way, someone did do the testing for the order. So yeah, it's initialization system group first, then on update, then fixed update, then update simulation system group. So therefore, mono behaviors do get run first, their normal update, and then the simulation system group. If you're doing, actually, he's writing on update mono twice, so I'm a little confused by that.
No, it's on update late mono, right? On update mono.
I think maybe this is, yeah. So initialization, on update mono, fixed update mono, update the simulation, then late update.
So interesting. So the ECS initialization system group runs before the first, or runs before mono behavior updates. Is that what I'm getting?
That's what this says, yeah. And that makes sense, sort of.
Okay. And then, so then the presentation system group does update after mono behavior late update.
Yes. And I suppose if we go back to then this one, it's the late update presentation system, and then it's the late update. I think he just might have written it wrong.
Okay.
So the late update seems to happen after the ECS late update.
Danny, get to work.
It's kind of funny because internally it is sort of me that is now owning that sort of piece of the puzzle.
What, because the whole like player loops and everything?
Yeah. Not so much the whole player loops in scripting, but specifically around.
You're not in charge of the entire player loop for all of the Unity engine?
Not quite.
Everyone has to ask you, hey, can I add this here?
Not quite yet. But I do have all of the ECS loop. But I only know the new one, not the...
The new one.
It's mostly the same.
Mostly.
Yeah. Don't call me a VP. Historically at Unity, having a VP position doesn't end up well.
The VP of player loops. That's so good.
Oh no. Oh no, forget what I said.
Oh my. Danny the Loop Master.
Repeat stuff.
That's so good. All right. Yeah. When are you gonna be CTO? Is that your that's kind of like your next step there at over there?
Yeah, it's just right there. It's fun.
You're like, yeah, been here what, 4 years now? I think it's probably about time.
Yeah.
All right. Well, with that, I think it's time. I think I've let the people wait long enough. I think it's time to announce my game. Wouldn't you say? Yes? No? Do you want to make them wait longer?
Yeah, this makes them wait very long. It's, no, let's finally get to it. So.
I am going to pull up the title screen here.
Title is delayed until the diagram is done.
Yeah, right. Okay.
And Simon says ECSTO.
Very good. Very good. The ECS technology officer. All right, everybody. So this game that I've been working on, very exciting times. I guess we'll just get into it and reveal the title screen here for my game. Drum roll, please. Game is called Dots Survivors.
Whoa.
Very, very creative name there. What you like? What?
That's a really cool logo. The moon with the dots and the.
I know. I've been working with this great artist. It goes by the name of Penzilla Designs online. Danny, can you guess where she is from?
I have no idea. No.
Why would I be asking you specifically this question?
Is she from Denmark? Is that?
She is your neighbor in Copenhagen.
Oh my god! What?
Yeah, I don't know if like she actually lives like next door to you or something, but no, she is in Copenhagen.
Oh my god, that's incredibly funny.
Yeah. So yeah, she's been doing a great job with all the art in this game. She of course created this title screen here. We have this main character who, again, my Halloween costume. And yeah, what does DOTS stand for in this context?
That's a good question. I feel like
Danny's overpowered tech stack.
Oh my god. Okay, you guys are going all in on this
We're
one
getting
now.
some good ones now. People are awake today.
Damn.
But yeah, no, so yeah, I guess I should get back to what this is. So yes, this is a game. It is going to be available on Steam for free. Actually,
wow.
I'm gonna check. Actually, let me hide the screen for like 2 seconds here because I
also with the name Dot Survivors, is this like people in chat having survived going through the Dots trials?
Exactly. Okay, so I was just checking. I am going to be putting this up on Steam and was hoping to have this Steam page available today so I can start getting wish lists for the free game that I'm putting up there. But apparently Steam takes a couple days to approve your Steam page and all this. And well, let's just say I submitted the Steam page for approval less than a couple days ago. So
yeah, well,
that's
take my money
on that one. But yeah, so yeah, the idea with this is it's a free game. I'm going to be like showing what the game is here in just a second, but as you can imagine, it's a survivors type game, so very similar to Vampire Survivors or something like that. As you can tell by the setting, set in space, you play as this little astronaut here, fighting off hordes and hordes of different types of aliens. And it's all good fun. We have all different types of weapons and upgrades and everything. Again, I'll be showing you all that in a second. But the really interesting thing that I'm doing with this is also I'm going to be posting on the Unity Asset Store basically the entire project files for this project. So it's going to have, again, everything for you to reference as far as my code in the context of the full game project. It's going to have all the art assets and everything like that. And I'm also going to have a bunch of supplemental videos and documentation, just kind of like going over the whole architecture of the game. Why I kind of like made the architectural decisions for this type of game, and just kind of showing the interesting things that you can do with dots and ECS. But also want to highlight some of the issues with current dots and ECS and kind of some of the workarounds that you have to do to create a fully functional game, and again with dots and ECS, combined with a lot of the existing Unity features and all that. So again, I think it's going to be a really good learning resource for people as well. So that is going to be available for purchase on the Unity Asset Store. I do want to have this all up available in December. Hopefully, if the timing works on that, again, have to go through approval processes for these different stores and everything like that. And of course, finish up some things within the game and get all of the supplemental resources and everything available for you. So yeah, that's kind of the general idea with that. Danny, Dot Survivors, what do you think of the initial reveal here so far?
I mean, I'm so excited to see the project.
Well, yeah. I mean, let's get into it then.
Yeah.
So yeah, here is kind of the project here. Let's see. Let me go over to my player and we'll see what's what do we call it, player entity. So yeah, this is I kind of have like all the attacks basically under here, so we can go ahead and enable one of these attacks here. So let's go with the classic Vampire Survivors whip attack. So yeah, I basically have all the attacks kind of modeled after a bunch of like space themed things. So yeah, we can kind of get into it here. No sound for the time being, but we still do have the ability to walk around. You see we have the nice classic Vampire Survivors whip attack here. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and I have a bunch of these like experience gems that will just like immediately level me up. So I'm going to just go ahead and remove these for that, so we're not leveling up like crazy here. But yeah, so we have kind of this whip attack. We're able to attack out to these enemies. Actually, these enemies might be a little bit strong for me right now, but yeah, you can see they kind of drop out the different gems. Using the classic, Danny, your kind of quad animation based approach here for all
nice.
the kind of like walking animations for all the characters and everything. And yeah, I definitely have to do a lot of tweaking on the balance and stuff here, but actually, you know what? Go ahead and put these experience gems back in so I can kind of show people what the level up kind of process looks like. So yeah, if we collect enough gems, we of course will level up, and we have the ability to select some different attacks, stat modifiers, and everything like that. So we have a laser strike, which is kind of similar to the lightning bolt attack. And then we also have like different stat modifiers. So we can kind of gain more experience or pick up items from further away. And then you see over here, we have kind of like all the current stat modifiers. So it shows you, if you've kind of upgraded anything, if there are any, modifications to that, those things will appear here. Also, the weapons are fully upgradable. So we can see, that this weapon is on level 1 and it can kind of upgrade from there. So yeah, let's go ahead and get the laser strike attack in here as well. So now we're kind of shooting at this whip. You see that lasers will kind of go around and shoot these different aliens on the ground here. Yeah, I know people are asking for me to open the chest. So let's go ahead and open the chest. If I don't, game over right here, which I did. So yeah, we'll go ahead and open the chest. So actually, yeah, what the chest does is it will upgrade one of our things that we have. Looks like these are all just kind of abilities here, which is fine. So we'll go over to our chest here, and I posted a couple things on this on social media of me kind of like recreating the Vampire Survivors chest opening animation. So this was a ton of fun to do. Did use Unity Timeline for this. We'll go ahead and open this up. We got this nice of course I got to get some music made for this part here, but yeah, we can upgrade our things with the chest here. Got these nice little effects and everything. But yeah, I mean, it's been a ton of fun to make, and yeah, I guess I can kind of show off some of the different attacks. I mean, or is there anything that you specifically want to see at all?
I mean, I'm mostly a code guy in a way, so I'm curious about the code especially.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot in the code side of things.
I can imagine.
Yeah. 'Cause-
Someone is also asking, like, is it UI Toolkit?
So yeah, this is not using UI Toolkit. This is using Unity's kind of existing UI solution. That's just the one that I'm most familiar with. Didn't feel like for this kind of first project that I'm doing here as kind of this sample project that's it would probably be the best idea for me to start messing around with UI Toolkit. But you know, I hear people who use it do like it, and so yeah, it would be interesting to kind of get into that at some point. But yeah, this is all just kind of the regular Unity UI stuff. So yeah, we and then yeah, I have this attack where we can like shoot out some screwdrivers in, you know, whatever direction that we're walking in. So there's that one. Of course, I showed off the laser attack. There's a couple other cool ones in here that I can show off real quick before we get into a little bit of the code stuff here. Let's see. We can enable, say, the buzzsaw. The drone swarm one's cool. Jetpack. We'll get a couple of them going. So you can see the buzzsaw kind of shoots out these buzzsaws. We get the drones that kind of circle around you. The jetpacks are these little jetpacks that shoot out and they'll bounce off the edge of the screen. Which are, you know, these are all, if you're familiar with Vampire Survivors, you know, you can kind of see a lot of the weapons that they're kind of were inspired by the CO2 event. So this one puts a little gas cloud kind of around the enemies here, or around you, and it will attack the enemies here. The black hole just instantly destroys all enemies on screen. So this one will take a couple seconds to go. And then any second now. So yeah, again, it's been a ton of fun to make. And yeah, there's kind of a lot that goes into this. And again, yeah, very excited to get this game out. And yeah, again, going to be having the full project files and everything available, along with a bunch of supplemental videos and documentation, again, available on the Unity Asset Store.
Does it contain any audio at all?
Oh, right now, no.
You should do like a mouth recorded version. Like,
pew, pew, pew. So actually, the artist that I've been working with for all the art stuff, she says that she can do some audio and sound design as well. So I was going to work with her a little bit and see what kinds of things that she's able to create for me. And yeah, but yeah, of course, I'm going to have, you know, audio. And yeah, again, want it to be a fully polished and complete game. You know, something probably like a little bit wider than a vertical slice. But, you know, again, I want to have it be, you know, a complete, very polished game. There's like a good, you know, player loop. There's all kind of, you know, the regular menuing and everything, as well as kind of a little bit of like, you know, meta level progression. Like you can, you know, kind of collect coins, and, you know, that amount of coins kind of like, you know, stays with you throughout play sessions. And of course, I want to integrate with, you know, Steam achievements and cloud saves and all that stuff. Again, you know, this is just meant to be a complete game in every sense, and that you know, people again can use kind of as a learning resource. So yeah, actually, right now it's not any procedural generation for the world. Everything is just kind of statically there. Of course, the enemies are like spawning randomly. Just
no, I imagine it's you placing every individual one in there for every player on Earth that plays the game.
Anytime that someone loads up the game, I get a ping on my phone, and I have to run over to my computer real fast and start manually dragging these prefabs in.
Obviously, and also like the main character there, it's obviously you every time. So you have to like manually do all the walking animation and.
Of course, yeah, Tobias would figure out some way to do all the crazy procedural generation and everything. Cannot wait to write all the tests for it. Simon's a big unit test guy.
I mean, it is one of the great things I think about ECS. It makes it really easy to write tests.
That's true. That's true. Maybe I should delay my launch by 2 months to just write nothing but tests.
Well, you can just have one integration test. You can just test if players spawn and die.
I do have some things that are kind of on the like extended feature list, some things that I would kind of like to add in after launch. So maybe unit tests can be one of those things if people have some demand for it. I mean, I feel like even just getting like at least a couple unit tests in there to just kind of like show how to use them and set them up, I think that could be helpful for sure. But yeah, is there anything specifically code-wise that you want me to that you want to look at all?
I mean, maybe no. How are you doing the enemy movement?
Okay, so as far as like determining where they need to move and everything,
Yeah.
and like actually moving them and everything. So yeah, actually the way that I'm doing this, I'll kind of start at the end and work my way back a little bit. I think this would be kind of the an interesting way to showcase this. So I kind of have like this generic character authoring. As you can see, there are 1.5 million components on here for all the stat
That
modifiers and
looks
everything.
like too many components to me. That's
Yeah.
a little concerning.
I should probably figure out a better way to do this. We can maybe talk a little bit about later about what I'm doing for all that stat modification stuff. But yeah, basically for the actual character move system here, all the characters essentially have a character move direction and a character move speed. And then we also are doing a with none knockbackable, which I believe this is an enableable component. Yeah, this is an enableable component. So if there's any attacks that apply kind of some knockback where it will knock the enemies back, then they'll just kind of ignore the base core move system. And as you can imagine, there's just, some very simple stuff in here about just kind of, the current movement is your move direction multiplied by your move speed multiplied by delta time. And then we just add that to the transform's position XZ. And then the only other interesting thing that I'm doing here is, so I actually have the graphics entity as a child of kind of the main entity. And then, so on there, I'm using some of the material property overrides, which is just kind of this component here, which is setting the facing direction on my shader to, basically, set the UV coordinates so they face one way or the other. So as you can see, if I go back to the game here real quick, when the player is moving this way, it's going to face this way. When the player is moving this way, it's going to face this way. And then same thing for the aliens. Like, when I go to the other side, the alien will kind of like switch sides, just depending on whichever left-right direction that they're moving. So luckily, it's pretty simple for Vampire Survivors. You can just kind of flip the direction side to side about whatever way that they're facing. So then to actually set the character move direction, so of course for the player, we have a get player input system, and then this is just a system base, and I have kind of the regular input system actions, and then we're basically just reading into this and then setting the character move direction for the player. And then I'm setting a couple other things here about kind of the facing direction and kind of the previous positive input. It's kind of some things for some of the attacks, like that screwdriver attack. It's basically got to remember like the last positive direction that the player was inputting, so it can like basically continue shooting the screwdrivers in that same direction if the player is no longer moving. And then for the enemies, enemy authoring. So there's actually multiple different types that they can do. I must have a... Let me see if I look at the... Actually, it's right here. Drop experience. Oh yeah, enemy move to player. Here we go. So yeah, we have this enemy move to player. So for the specific types that are basically just moving directly towards the player, then, all we're doing is a pretty simple, just iJob entity here. We takes in the player position. And then of course we look for, anything with the character move direction, current transform. We're doing some stuff with if it's colliding with the player or not, just so it doesn't get locked onto the player. And of course we want to make sure that it has the enemy tag as well as the enemy move to player tag. And then, just kind of going in here and essentially just kind of calculating the direction from where it currently is to the player. And then we can set that cur move direction. And the reason that I kind of have it separated out like this is so we can also have, say, this other enemy type where, there's this enemy linear movement. Actually, we have a couple of these. There's enemy linear movement, enemy sine wave movement. And then so these are all just kind of their basic systems. So actually, this one's kind of cool because it basically only sets the character move direction once when it initially spawns. And then that doesn't need to change because it essentially just is moving in the same direction. And then actually, if we do want to change direction, I just have this set enemy linear movement flag, and then we can just set the enemy linear movement angle and enable that component, and then it will basically just recalculate that direction that it needs to go in to basically just move in that direction. And then similarly, we have the enemy sine wave movement. So this one is basically just kind of calculating where on a sine wave that it would be. So it just kind of goes across the screen, but kind of goes up and down a little bit. So just, a couple different options for some of the different enemy types that we have. I mean, that all makes sense and everything.
Yeah, it definitely does. I also think there are some good questions in chat.
Yeah. I haven't really been paying attention since I've been rambling here. So anything that sticks out to you?
Someone is asking about events, specifically saying, would it be interesting to see if anything that listens for damage being applied and then reacts to it? And he's fishing for event systems. So it isn't specifically about events, but it is how are you dealing with the damage in the game?
Yeah. So I kind of have done a similar setup to what I had I think
in episode 3 or the damage system.
One of the first episodes that we did.
It's very early.
Yeah. I was talking about my combat system and everything. So basically, I'm doing a pretty similar setup to that, where I basically have kind of a interaction system. So I can kind of show off what this interaction system looks like here. Actually, this is the interaction system group. It's I have this dynamic buffer of entity interactions here. It's pretty simple. All it has is a Boolean for is handled and an entity for the target entity. The reason this is so simple is just because I actually end up using this for multiple things. So damage is one of them, but I also use it for applying status buffs to like temporary status buffs to characters. Some of the things with stat modifiers. There's kind of a fair amount of things that I end up using this for, but specifically for damage, I guess we can kind of go through this a little bit here. Let's see. This is another one of the things that was kind of implemented early on, so I kind of have to re-jog my memory a little bit on here. But
mind you, it is specific, as he does point out, it's specifically around how is damage being taken, not so much about how it's being given.
Okay, yeah. So I think this would be a good kind of entry point to that, but we can kind of get to that. So actually, there is an apply handle damage on interaction. Yeah. So basically we have kind of well, actually, someone also does mention collisions at one point, and so I'm actually using triggers for most of the kind of attack collisions. And then yeah, I'll get back to the handle damage interaction in just a sec. But
I'm glad you are, because for performance reasons, that's way better than using actual colliders.
As far as triggers instead of collisions, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Why is that? Is there any kind
triggers are generally cheaper than collisions because collisions have to be resolved.
Right. Okay. Makes sense. So yeah, there is a detect capability trigger job here. So yeah, basically what's going on here is we're kind of like detecting this trigger event. We're making sure that it's, a damageable entity and a capability entity and all this. So what ends up happening is we get this interaction buffer. We can look through this interaction buffer and we can see if an entity has already been in that interaction buffer. This basically ensures that we're not like, if like an attack is like going through an entity, we don't want to apply the attack like 7 times as like each frame that it's on going through there. So that just kind of like checks to make sure that we're not, applying damage multiple times. And then all we're doing is we're just adding to this interaction buffer, again, for the like on the attack itself has this interaction buffer, where we're adding an entity interaction. Its handled is false, and then we're setting this target entity as that kind of damageable entity, that entity that got hit. So now we have a bunch of these interaction systems that now can basically go through any entity that has this dynamic buffer of entity interactions, and it can do, whatever it wants specific to that entity. So in this case, we're going through the dynamic buffer of entity interactions for anything that has this damage on interaction type here. So basically, like I said, we're just going to go ahead and iterate through all these interactions. If the interaction has already been handled, we just go ahead and continue. Again, we don't want to apply this multiple times. Again, we want to keep all those interactions still in that buffer to, again, ensure that we're not, again, like I say, applying damage multiple times and all that. So yeah, we can go ahead and confirm that it's not been handled. And then what we can do is now we actually go onto the target entity, confirm that it has a damage this frame buffer. If it does, we'll get a reference to the damage this frame buffer, and we'll just add a new element to that. And then again, that's kind of, we buffer up all these damage elements so that, later on, if there's like, say, multiple damage that gets applied in one frame, we can kind of handle all those things up. Basically just kind of stack all of the damage up for one frame and apply those. Even though most of the time we're just going to be applying one like damage element to an entity in a given frame. This is just kind of a little bit of a safeguard for those scenarios where like 2 attacks hit at the exact same time kind of thing.
How are you, if you don't mind me asking, how are you handling, what's it called? When damage is applied, now you need to spawn all the juicy effects, the like particles and the flickers.
So that stuff will, I don't have a ton of that stuff in there right now, but it still will kind of tag off this interaction system. The one thing that I do have is the flash color on damage. So this is, if we go back over here, you can see that when we damage these aliens, you see that they kind of like flash red. They actually flash black and red like real quick. It's kind of like a little, just quick little damage effect. Same thing with the player. The player, I believe, for some reason, they're not getting hit right now. Live demos and all. But they basically will just kind of like flash red and black really quick to kind of like get that effect of taking damage. Basically we have this kind of system here. Actually, yeah. So for like spawning particle effects and stuff, we can kind of tie into that interaction system a little bit more directly. Whereas this one, we're kind of looking into that damage buffer a little bit more. So yeah, the flash color on damage system. Yeah, we have the flash color on damage as well as, okay, yeah, I think there's another system. Actually, it is on the damage this frame. Should be a process damage this frame. Yeah, so basically, yeah, if we have this graphics entity reference, then we can go ahead and set the flash color on damage enabled on that graphics entity. And we can kind of set, there's a little timer on that flash color on damage that we can kind of initialize on there as well. So then, yeah, basically we just have this kind of system here that goes through and, checks the timer. And then, yeah, so the first half of the flash duration sets the sprite to all black. And then the second half will apply a tint to the sprite. In this case, it's red. And then after that, it's just going to return the sprite to the normal look. And again, we're kind of using the built-in material property override for the base color here. So yeah, some cool stuff that we can do there. Anything else that you saw pop up in chat here?
Let's have a look. Yeah, how are you handling the input?
So yeah, the input was, I kind of briefly skimmed over that on the player system, but I think this is pretty similar to the video that I have up on my YouTube channel where this is actually all happening within a system base. The reason it's in a system base is system bases, the kind of one major advantage they have over iSystems is that we can have managed fields as them in there. So I have this input system actions type, which is just kind of the new regular Unity input system. And of course, in the onCreate, we get a new object of that and enable it. And then inside my onUpdate, I can just use the input actions to essentially read the movement here. And I think I'm pretty much, yeah, I'm only really doing movement input at this point. I don't really, I mean, again, there's no like attack buttons in these survivors types games. So really we're just kind of moving the player around. So yeah, we're just kind of reading this input as a vector2. And then inside this system here, we're just setting the current movements. Again, just directly setting that character move direction value. So again, we're kind of have this system that reads the input. And again, we have similar systems for the enemies that determine where they should be moving at any point in the frame. And then all players, enemies, anything that falls into the character category has its movement actually applied in that kind of generic, general character move system.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay, and someone is also asking about how the animation was achieved.
Yeah, yeah. The animation has been a fun one. I kind of started with the animation setup that you actually, where's the one that I want? The one that you created for the connecting the dots talk, because you had the all the source code available for that. So I downloaded the project and kind of played around with it. So I kind of started off of a similar base that you did, but tweaked it to my needs a little bit here. So yeah, here is the shader graph. If I can make this full screen somehow. Hello, double click. What? Maximize. Okay, there we go.
There you go.
So yeah, it's actually a pretty simple setup to do here.
It always looks more difficult when you look at the graph, like
right, yeah.
Oh, so many nodes.
Oh my gosh,
yeah, what's
like,
going on here?
Yeah,
but it's
octopus or something. So I'm actually going to go ahead and put in a time node here just so you guys can see it's actually moving here. So yeah, we can see that this is kind of like the character moving around. So
how's the texture look? I think that's a good start actually to look at the texture first.
okay.
'Cause, normally it's nice to see the input, and then we already know that's the output.
Good
So
point.
the input would probably be the texture.
So yeah, here is the actual texture here. So I basically I'm just doing like one sprite sheet for each character that I'm creating. So you can see that this character basically has two animations. This top one is kind of an idle animation. They just kind of are just kind of standing there, just ready to go. So that's basically what is displayed when the character is not moving. And then the bottom one is kind of just a more traditional walk cycle. So yeah. Basically what is going on here is we got to start here. Again, we have this time here. For the purposes of just showcasing this, I have it connected to this time that's just kind of constantly going. Otherwise, I have been using this global time, which is a globally scoped shader property. So like any shader that I use that has this global time, I can set this through code. And so actually this is kind of like an interesting little thing here. I have a global time update system where it is just a regular system base. And then we do this shader.set global float. And then we just basically pass in the current elapsed time here. The reason that I'm doing this is basically so I have control over when I'm updating time. Because I'm kind of doing this thing like when I pause the game here. So if I go ahead and hit escape here, the game kind of pauses, and I'm kind of doing this little bit of a hack where I basically disable the basically the ECS player loop essentially. What was happening when I was in this state before and just had this hooked up to the regular shader time is the animations kept playing because they're basically outside of the thing that I'm pausing. So I kind of had to come up with this little solution where I'm using this basically global shader property. So now like any animated shader that I have that has this global time value now will basically stop updating here. So I'll go ahead and just put this regular time back there. Okay. And then, yeah, so what's going on here is it's just kind of like, just kind of some like math. So we're kind of like multiplying. Oh, and actually another thing to point out is I do also have this spawn time. The reason for this is because if I didn't have this spawn time, now all of the like enemies and everybody, they would basically be on the same animation frame, and they would like, you know, update on the same step, and it just kind of looked weird when they're all like marching at the exact same. They're all in the exact same frame. So this spawn time basically just kind of gives it a little bit of an offset for each entity. And then, yeah, basically all these things here are like being set by shader properties, kind of like unique to either the entity or the material, depending on what it is. So like, for example, this frames per second, you know, this is kind of set at the material level. You know, if I want to play some things back faster or slower, I have a little bit of control over that. We also have to kind of take into account like the frame count, the number of frames in the animation, so we can kind of like figure out basically the kind of like UV coordinates for breaking up the sprite sheet. Because again, the sprite sheet is just kind of like considered as one texture. And then essentially what we're trying to get to do here is we're kind of like using some math with you know, the number of animations that we have, which are basically like the number of like vertical animations that we have. The frame count is the number of like horizontal frames that we have. So again, just kind of doing, you know, some basic division, multiplication, putting it in vectors, yada, 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 to essentially set the tiling and offset to, you know, basically again, sample into this texture so we can get this animation to play. And again, it is kind of a flipbook style animation. So we're just essentially kind of moving our view on that texture down the way, again, just by kind of setting the UV coordinates. And of course, we can also change animations. So for example, I have this animation index here. So you can see animation index is set to 0. So if I set this to 1, now it switches over to the idle animation. So it basically now shifts that UV coordinates up. So now we're like shifting across on the upper row of the idle animation here. So yeah, I think it worked out pretty well. I'm pretty happy with it.
Mm-hmm.
So
I mean, it definitely does look somewhat similar to the one I wrote for.
Yeah, it was very much inspired, but I saw yours was a little bit different because you kind of stored all of your sprites on the same kind of texture atlas. So then you kind of were saying like, where does it start? How many frames it is? You had some like scaling and some other properties, some things like that. So a little bit of a differences, but yeah, it was a good project to reference. And again, it is pretty simple because again, all we're really doing is just kind of setting this UV value. But there is like, a little bit to get to that. And I mean, it's not entirely difficult. It's all like
someone in chat mentions there's a node called the flipbook node. And I'm kind of curious what that is because I haven't tried that one myself.
UV flipbook.
I'm only just learning about this.
Okay. So you pass in UV width, height, and tile. I mean, this might be basically exactly what I'm doing.
So, yeah, no, I think the question of can't you use the flipbook node for this might be yes.
I suppose you can.
There you go.
Flipbook node is exactly what you need. Okay. Well, Danny, your shaded graph was misleading because I was copying your homework. So,
well, mine does something else. So, not quite. Maybe.
What do you mean? Just that?
I have the whole like start index, end index, and the fact that I have multiple sprites inside of it. So I wouldn't need more nodes anyways than just that. But I'm sure I could have made it a little simpler.
Yeah. All right. Well, maybe I'll rework some things with the flipbook to get rid of some of this stuff here. But yeah. No, I mean the animation has been good. I'm very happy with how it's turned out, and yeah. All right. Anything else sticking out to you so far? As far as I see, there's a bunch of stuff to catch up on in the chat that I haven't been looking at lately.
I think if chat wants to ask any questions, they should feel free to do so right now.
Multiplayer. Let me delay another 2 months
for
that.
Netcode for entities. We're gonna do some predictions, and I want both P2P support and dedicated servers, and
that is
matchmaking.
That would be kind of like one of the stretch goals that I would like to have. After launch, if this ends up doing pretty well, like
gotta do a Kickstarter. Is that it?
Yeah, right. Do a Kickstarter. No, but I think because I know the base Vampire Survivors does have a multiplayer mode, which supposedly is pretty fun actually. So I think it could be a fun thing to get in there. But again, I hope this does well because I do have some other ideas for other sample projects that I would like to do. I kind of have like the some ideas for the second and third games that I would like to make for these, and I think they could be fun reference projects. Or yeah,
is it going to be a series? So we have Dutch Survivors, then it's like Dutch Massacre, it's like Aftermath, like a visitor cleanup sort of game.
Return of the Dots. Yeah, no, I think I think it would be fun to make like a series of these reference projects and stuff. So Let's see. Consider enableable components for the buffs. Not particularly, just because of the way that they work. I don't know. Again, that may be something that I want to refactor a little bit, but yeah, we'll see.
Have you run into any performance issues?
Not really. No, I haven't like stress tested it super hard. To be honest,
bazillion different enemies at the same time just to validate.
I did last night where I had like I think like 1500, and without burst it was struggling pretty hard, but with burst on it was fine.
Yeah, you can go higher.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, as Mr. Awesome says, it needs to be billions.
Billions.
I mean, I think the game called They Are Billions is a Dutch game, from what I recall, or does have some Dutch in it.
They Are Billions.
It's a pretty cool game.
Survivor game. I feel like I've seen this logo maybe.
I mean, that game performs pretty well considering how many things that are there. If you want to go to the trailer, you can see. You just scroll around a little. More. maybe the first trailer is a cinematic one. Go to the end, maybe.
Oh yeah, okay.
Oh yeah, now we're getting gameplay. There you go.
Yeah, I mean, there's some pretty good like large groups of.
There you go. So you're building a bunch of stuff, and then there's a large hordes of enemies. I don't think they have a billion, but I think you should stretch for a billion. Is my point.
I should. Yeah, I don't know what else to say about this for now, but yeah, I'm pretty excited. The gameplay is pretty much complete here. I do have the artist working on some more enemy varieties, so we're going to get the enemies in, create a proper wave system, and make sure to get the player loop a little bit balanced at least, so it's kind of still a bit of a fun game to play. And yeah, then getting all the supplemental documentation and everything ready, and yeah, I think it's going to be a cool project. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Let's see, and then just getting chat up on here. Oh, and multi-platform, of course. I would like to at least get it running on Steam Deck. I think that would be kind of like a good showcase of it running on some mildly lower end hardware. Tried using subscenes, doing some stress test on Switch tomorrow. For this project, I'm just using the single subscene. I don't know if it necessarily makes sense. Scene sections. Yeah, I mean, I haven't done any scene sections or anything like that either. Yeah, I don't know if that would make sense to have or not. But yeah, again, I probably should stress test this a little bit more and yeah, just kind of see where things are going. Because actually, I don't really have burst enabled in too many systems and too many systems jobified yet. So actually, that is probably another thing that I want to do is. I have a couple of the enemy systems, like some of the main ones jobified, but yeah, I'm using kind of idiomatic for each for a large majority of the systems. But yeah, anything else that you want to chat about in this for now?
Nothing comes to mind.
All right, sounds good. Well, yeah, I'm sure I'll be sharing more over the weeks to come with the Dots Survivors project. So yeah, it's been a fun exercise to go through, creating a proper game and yeah, hopefully people find good value out of the kind of resources that I'll be providing with it as well. Yeah. And again, actually, let me check one more time if the Steam page has been approved yet. We'll see.
Someone is asking, are you gonna add obstacles?
Oh yeah. There's not too much in the level right now. I do have some art assets for some obstacles created. However,
I guess the problem is if you're gonna add obstacles, you might at some point need obstacle avoidance on your enemies.
well, so yeah, I'm kind of going off of a lot of the same logic that Vampire Survivors has. With Vampire Survivors, for the obstacles, they'll either just kind of like run into them and kind of
Move around, yeah.
yeah,
It's like, no friction. So.
that kind of thing, or they'll just like kind of go through them and it doesn't really matter. Yeah, so I kind of do have some of the logic for obstacles in place, like some of the attacks that kind of like bouncing off the edge of the screen. Those can also bounce off of obstacles. So I have that stuff in place. And I did just get a bunch of obstacle art assets created, but I haven't actually set those up and put those in the game yet. But yeah. So yeah. Once again, that is .survivors. So yeah, again, hoping December I'll have that out and ready for everybody. But yeah, with that, I guess we can kind of start closing things out here. Danny, do you have anything that you'd like to share with us for your dynamic allocation?
Sure. I came up with a fun one that I recently saw.
Okay.
Which is, I'll see if I can expertly share my whole screen. There we go. And add to stage. Yes. So recently I've gotten back into Minecraft, and
Okay.
so I looked at the history a little, and of course I think a lot of people know that it was based on another game called Infiniminer, Minecraft, and Infiniminer was done by this guy called Zach Bath.
Oh, okay.
And Zach Bath is
I recognize that name from somewhere.
Yeah, you might, because there's a game studio that starts with the same name as this, called Zachtronics.
Yeah. Okay. That's
Yes.
yeah.
Zachtronics was made by Zach Bath. That's why it's called Zachtronics.
Yeah. I saw a GDC talk from him.
Oh, fun. And you know, he's of course known for his Zachtronic games, all of which are, like, for the most part, programming games in one way or another, or like interesting puzzlers.
Yeah, puzzle games is kind of
yeah,
logic
exactly.
puzzles.
And one of the interesting development histories is that Infiniminer was sort of based on this old game that Zach did called Infinifrag, which was written in Pygame, and then it turned into an SDL game called Infinifrag 2, which was written by this other guy. It wasn't written; it was more so held by another guy called Dan Hathaway. And Dan Hathaway helped by making some performance improvements.
Is Dan Hathaway related to Anne Hathaway?
That would be funny. But Dan Hathaway basically rewrote the engine, a lot of it, to be like more performant and work well for more stuff. And at some point they split, and Zach turned it into Infiniminer, while Dan Hathaway actually continued to work on a game called Block Arena.
Okay.
Block Arena turned into a full-on game. He's been working on for a lot of years, many years, in fact.
Well, I mean, yeah, if Infiniminer was the precursor to Minecraft, and you figure they broke off at some point before Minecraft, that's been in development for a little while, I suppose.
Just a little while. And this is the game. It's really interesting to see, because the UI and general design is really something else. The sounds are random AF. the gameplay is that you can shrink and grow. And before I like try to explain what the game is really about, I want to just go over here and look at the overwhelmingly positive reviews of the game.
I was gonna say for a second, I thought the reviews were so positive that it like broke the word, but no, you just have Danish and
Yeah,
localization.
it's overwhelmingly.
I'm like, how do you get to that level of overwhelming positive?
Yeah, it's in Scandinavian somehow. I don't know. Old runic language. Yeah, so a lot of people are then going on about the fact that it's actually a really good game, and I have barely even gotten into the start of it. And then you look at the amount of hours that they play, 37 hours, 32 hours here, 14, 42, like that. Those are 41 hours. That's quite a few amount of hours, considering that they are all saying that they haven't really seen everything yet in the game, and they want to explore more.
Yeah.
Considering what the game looks like, it's sort of surprising, right? And there's this video on YouTube, which is also how I got interested in this. That goes into why this is actually an interesting game. So the shrinking mechanic and the growing mechanic, you can shrink a lot, like a lot. And it's all like procedurally generated and interesting. So you might see a cactus, and the cactus you can then shrink into, and then you see like the cactus is made up of cactus, and that cactus is made up of cactus, and then those cactuses might have flowers that you can then go into, which is like a dungeon layer almost.
Wow.
And then like you go more and more in, and sometimes you might go into a trap where it's just like infinite recursion downwards, and it will say, yeah, this is a downward spiral, you're essentially dead now. It's just like an infinitely huge game, where the point of the game is supposedly to save this character called K. Though it's less easy than said. So you can see this cube obviously has like an inside here, and then you can shrink into it. And all of the different elements, the boxes you see are ammo, which is what you're stocking up on down here. And there's a ton of different types of ammunition in the game.
So is the gameplay you kind of just like floating around and shooting these like different
yeah, and of course
like
they become harder to kill if you're smaller, and if you're bigger, you can't even see them.
Oh.
So yeah, no, it actually looks it's supposedly a very fun game, and I can recommend seeing some actual gameplay video on it, even though this looks horrible. It's the graphics are not that great, and the UI design is interesting. But a small part of me sort of wants to try and implement this with dots.
Yeah, this would be way cool.
And what's also interesting, it's not too surprisingly, it's done by a professor at a university.
Someone who is very familiar with all these crazy algorithms and yeah.
Dan Hathaway is a professor.
Okay.
It's yeah. That's what I wanted to show. This weird, wacky game called Fractal Block World.
Fractal Block World.
Done by
see why
Dan
that's
Hathaway.
On a technical level might take 20 years or whatever to develop.
I mean, that's incredibly interesting. Also, just the fact that it took so long to develop this weird game, and it's actually really well done. So like this tree might have smaller trees inside of it, and those might contain secrets that you don't know. But then you can like zoom all the way out, and then you still have this game, and then you can zoom out from that, and then you notice like this is just a small section of the world. You can then go over somewhere else. It's like this game is massive.
That's insane.
Yeah,
I guess if he's been working on that for 15, 20 years or whatever, would it take longer to implement all those crazy algorithms, or literally just manually hand place all the things in the world?
I'm sure there's like some manual done work here, but
yeah, of course.
a lot of it must also just like be about, this segment here is now going to generate this sort of segment here that's going to generate this sort of segment here. So it would definitely be interesting to try something out like this with dots.
Yeah, I definitely like those ideas or the games where you're kind of like playing with perspective in interesting ways. Like in this one, you're kind of like shrinking down to more microscopic levels, or some that you see some of the games where there's like kind of a 4D aspect to it, and you can kind of like go through the fourth dimension to do interesting things in games. Like they kind of remind me of that type of thing in some ways as well.
Yes. Also, the realistic sun in this game.
sun.
Yeah, it's clearly done by Map
It's,
Guy.
Programmer art taken to the max and said, "Hey, we're gonna ship it."
Yeah, and
so
and
is that game like fully out now, or
yeah, it's fully out. You can go ahead and buy it for these are euros, so you have to convert them slightly. A euro is almost $1, so
yeah, probably like $8 or so.
Yeah.
Okay, so it came out in 21.
Yeah. But this is essentially in another world, this would have been Minecraft. Because this graph, obviously, that's Infiniminer, and then after that,
there is an alternate universe. We'll say 50% of the alternate universes, Minecraft took off, and Fractal Block World took off.
Yeah, I mean, what we don't know is that Minecraft is actually just inside of this block, and then shrink down, and then go over. Yeah. Also, I do find it interesting that like Minecraft is such an well-known game, but also like a lot of people will have heard of Infiniminer, but don't know that it's made by Zach Barth.
Yeah, I had no idea.
Who does own a very well-known company.
We talked about a Zachtronics game on last episode.
Yeah,
the card game, the solitaire game.
The solitaire game, and I mean Zachtronic games are just amazing. TIS 100, Shenzhen.io, really good programming puzzle games.
Yeah. No, yeah, I was saying
Infinifactory.
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, so I saw the GDC talk by him, and he's kind of talking about all the puzzle games and how he comes up with them and inspirations and all this. And it was funny. He was saying that he like doesn't play games at all. Like people were asking him like, "Oh, what's your favorite game?" He's just like, I don't play games. So I thought that was funny. That was my biggest takeaway from that talk. No, it was a good talk.
Also, you can like download Block Arena.
0.91, the Windows binary file. Yes.
Yes.
Got a great website too. Also still using HTTP.
Yep. HTTP, it's not secure.
Yep.
It looks like an old website, but are you noticing the fact that it loads? I click here, and then it's basically immediate. I don't have to wait for things to pop in. I mean, it you can see that it's a algorithm math sort of person. It's
yeah,
I can recommend looking at
simple.
Some of it.
Gives you all the information you need, and click to get
Procedural
more.
worlds,
Ray tracing.
Yeah.
RTX on.
I'm loving this article because this is all there is. Scroll.
This is an example that can be easily rendered using ray tracing. And this one is like a lot more detailed.
Yep. I mean, this, I can imagine how to do this with ray tracing. Ray tracing does make it very easy to make fractals. Yeah. So there you go. If anyone is curious about how one can achieve an old school block game, then
yeah, there's a lot of information on.
There's a lot of information on this.
That's cool.
Yeah, there you go. Little old school knowledge. So what is your?
Yeah, so actually, I similarly have a creator and game that I would like to share. So I don't know if people have came across this guy online, Brandon James Greer. He's got a nice YouTube channel. He does a lot of pixel art, like really, really beautiful pixel art. He does a lot of like cool things where he kind of like remake different characters in pixel art, and he like talks a lot about his kind of methodology, about how he goes about creating all these pixel arts and things like that. Yeah, so I've kind of watched him a little while back, and then hadn't been seeing any of his videos recently until just a couple weeks ago. I was kind of getting back into some of the things that he was doing, and saw that he actually announced a game, and this was kind of shared at the was it the Day of the Devs Fest, I think, back early in the summer. And it's kind of this like cool like Pokemon inspired like motorcycle.
Very Game Boy graphics right there.
Yeah. So it's kind of cool how he's saying that he's like really sticking to a lot of constraints about like the pixel sizing of the whole screen and the color palettes he's using, which I thought that was kind of like a cool thing to say. Like he basically has a base color palette of 4 colors, and then for each like section of the world, there's like 2 additional like highlight colors that he uses. So like in this area, like they might be like the the blue and yellow kind of highlight color, whereas like the pinks and white and purple and stuff like that, that's all kind of like part of the base color palette. And so it's actually like, if you kind of look around at this, like the motorcycle that he's driving, like they kind of use like some more kind of like a little bit modern techniques. Like, so you can see like when the motorcycle turns, it's like super smooth. So I guess like instead of just doing like, having like, 4 or even 8 directions, I think they're using like 16 directional sprites for the motorcycle. So like as you turn around, you get this like super smooth motion. Do you kind of see that? Like as he's kind of like going like into the parking spot and stuff, like it's just like really so yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. And so it's in development right now. This one you actually can wishlist on Steam, unlike Dot Survivors. What is the actual name of the game? Pedal Runner. So I will go ahead and
pedal to the metal.
Pedal to the metal. Oh, a little double entendre. I didn't even notice that there. So yeah, there is the Pedal Runner. And then here's actually his channel. And actually they did some like cool things with it. So actually I think this is on the Steam page here. Yeah, they did like a whole, like they got a whole like little anime intro made, kind of like of the characters and everything. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
That is cool. That just reminds me of Vampire Survivors meets Among Us.
Oh yeah.
Didn't I show you that trailer?
Maybe that was a little while ago, right?
It must have been, because that trailer is also just something else. You can try and find it. Vampire Survivors.
Well, yeah, actually, so I think just yesterday they came out with the official Castlevania DLC, even though Vampire Survivors is like heavily visually based off of Castlevania.
So try and find the Among Us.
Is it a DLC?
It must be. I think you can just search it.
Vampire Survivors Among Us. Emergency meeting.
Of course, yeah. Yeah, look at this trailer. This is something else. This is you wouldn't even expect it to be Vampire Survivors,
right? Yeah. It's like such like a high budget anime fight scene, and
yes, everything about this is incredibly weird because it's such a high budget.
Nothing says animation. Vampire Survivors. Nothing says Among Us yet.
Exactly. You wouldn't know it yet, but just in a second, now you see the Among Us.
There they are.
And it just like that. Yeah, we can watch it through. It's not that long. It's such a beautiful trailer.
It really is. God dang.
Like even some enemies don't even look this this good. Like it's so incredibly
Yeah,
satisfying.
right.
Like that.
They probably spent a lot of money on this trailer.
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess Vampire Survivors and Among Us developers, they got some money to blow on a cool
Yeah,
anime
no,
intro.
they totally do. And there you go. That's the game. Yes.
Dang.
Yeah. So yeah, I was reminded of that animation when I saw that they were also doing a
Yeah.
cool anime style animation for a pixel game.
Yeah. No, it's cool when people do things like that. Maybe we'll get a anime intro created for Dot Survivors. You think that'll be a good use of my money?
Yours need to be voxel based then, because
yeah, right. Yeah, it's got to be like I'll do an FMV in my spaceman outfit here.
Yes. Like an actual an actual.
It'll just be like me running around my backyard. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and then a bunch of people acting as the aliens coming at you.
Yeah, like hire some of my neighbors or something.
Yes.
All right. Well, anyways, with that, go ahead and wrap this show up. Thank you all for hanging out here today and bringing in the heat like the VP of player loops for Danny.
Oh, gosh.
It was just amazing. Yeah. So yeah, anyways, with that, we can go ahead and real quickly close things out here by thanking all of our Patreon supporters. Once again, you can support us over on Patreon and through YouTube memberships for some fun, exciting bonuses over there. I do just want to call out the supporters at the CPU register tier, which is our highest tier. So thank you very much to eCool and Hakan for your support over there. I really do appreciate that. So yeah, anyways, with that, this has been episode 39 of the Hot Path Show. And we will see y'all next week for the big episode 40. Exciting stuff.
Wow.
I know, crazy. All right, Danny, any parting words for the people here?
Stay on the hot path.
Stay on the hot path. All right, well, have a happy Halloween weekend. And yeah, if you're an American, make sure you go vote on Tuesday.
Oh, yeah.
We can do that.
Yeah.
Indeed. All right. Well, yeah, with that, take care, everybody. And yeah, we'll see you in the next one. Later.